Hey, everybody. Oh, we have consent to record. Welcome to the Mr. Teacher, Mr. Preacher podcast and YouTube channel, where it is our job to learn and teach what lasts in athletics and then share it back with you, the greater coaches, athletes, parents, and all of the above, whether you are down in youth sports up to the professional ranks. And we are within our series on the John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, and we are in the second building block of enthusiasm. We already talked about industriousness, working hard, working smart, and now we're talking about enjoying what you're doing. And this is the third installment. We'll be covering Catherine Price's The Power of Fun. We've already talked about finding your yellow tux with Jesse Cole of Banana Land. Jake, Banana Ball is sweet, by the way. That was on ESPN2 last night. We've already covered The Energy Bus by John Gordon. So a little bit more anecdotal and, how to be more energetic, enthusiastic. And like I told Jake right before recording, we're going to get a lot more practical at the end of the month, like strategies and ways and how to find enthusiasm, how to apply it, the mindset and whatnot. But before we get to that, we have to tell you where you can get the book. You can get it wherever books are sold, but where can you get Catherine Price's The Power of Fun? Well, you can get it at bookshop.org. That is our underdogs of booksellers. They partner with independent bookstores all across the nation. And you can know that when you buy from bookshop.org, that it goes to those independent sellers. And you can get your books wherever you want, but we love bookshop.org. We can organize our books there. We have the Industriousness kit there. We have the Enthusiasm. So all of our books are there. You also support the channel. It's a good use of money if you're willing to support. So go to bookshop.org and get The Power of Fun there. Well, Jake, to kick this off, focus our readers and listeners in, we need to talk about fun. And before we even define fun, I want to talk about your fun history. So Catherine Price goes into great detail about what she means by fun. We'll cover that here in our first draft reading. But I want to go through what fun has looked like for you. So she took this from Stuart Brown. So Stuart Brown is a psychologist, and he's most famous for his work on play. And he talks a lot about a play history. So Catherine Price did this, and I got some questions for you. So
okay, let's go.
If you are listening along, you can kind of answer these for yourself. In order to be more enthusiastic, you have to put yourself in situations that produce high energy and high enthusiasm. So I'm going to ask, you can be as lengthy or short as you want. I'm not going to ask them all. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 6. We'll see what you think. I just want to hear what fun looked like for you, and that'll be a good segue. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So take me back to elementary, or maybe even middle school, thereabouts time. Like, you're aware of yourself. What were you passionate about when you were a kid?
Sports. Anything sports, and it was either virtual or it was real life. Simple as that. Like, my friends come over, we were either playing video games or we were outside shooting hoops on the driveway. We were playing hot box. We were throwing a football around. That is what pretty much my entire childhood was.
Now, what was the main sports?
It had been football, baseball, and basketball.
And soccer.
Well, I played soccer, but none of my friends played soccer. Well, they did, but that's not what we did. Like, okay, sure, you can throw soccer on there.
Yeah, I'll put soccer on there. Okay. And that was either playing it or virtual. So all the games.
All the games. Like, all the video games too were all sports games. We didn't play like Call of Duty. I mean, Call of Duty wasn't really around then, but we didn't play Call of Duty or anything like that. It was entirely sports games.
I feel like I really missed out on like all the cool first-person shooter games. Like Halo had just came out. I mean, I think I would have really loved those, especially with you. Like, we would have dominated that. Like, I would have been obsessed. No issue. Like, beating people.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We had our niche, and we were okay with it. We loved it. So I don't know that we would have jumped into those first-person shooters so much. I did in college, but that's a different story.
Yeah. All right. When in your life have you laughed the hardest? And what were you doing? Who were you with? I'm not fishing. So obviously we know each other very well. I'm not fishing on any of these questions. I should have said that. If you're doing this with a friend, You're not fishing. Yes, we've laughed together, but tell me about a time you nearly peed your pants or something. You're always laughing, so it's kind of hard, but
Yeah, that's a hard one to come up with a specific situation. I mean, most of the time, there's 2 times when I'll laugh my butt off, right? It's with my friends over something most likely super random, like not scripted, completely off the cuff, or with my wife, right? Something ridiculous happens. Our kids do something absurd. And those are typically the 2 times that I'll laugh my butt off. Hard to come up with a specific time because it happens somewhat frequently.
Okay. Oh, this is good. What's a memory of a time when you felt playfully rebellious? This comes up about the rebellion in the S.P.A.R.K acronym, or harmlessly deviant. So like you weren't being, you weren't breaking anything, you weren't destroying anything. But it was a little mischievous, let's put it that way. So playfully rebellious, kind of pushing the envelope, stepping over the line, or maybe playing with the line. Is there ever a time with that?
I mean, this is get tough because I am the completely boring person in the friend group who doesn't take many chances. I rebel in certain other ways, right?
Yep.
And then it's like, do you really want to admit it on a public platform that you did something too?
Absolutely not.
That one's tough for me. I don't. That's just not how I rebel, really. Like at all.
No, I got a good example. Like that's because the words are kind of suggestive. So let me give you an example. So Jake is highly creative. So when we get to his, fun compatibility quiz here, his fun factors, he's highly creative. So I remember one time, well, no, not one time, more than one time, just finding random combinations of spices. Like you just were randomly interested in spices. You're like, I wonder what this would taste like. And like you looked in like we were going to make something. I can't even remember what it was, but we were just there wasn't much to eat. And we're like, okay, we got to figure it out. So I think had to do something with like, we got on this kick of gourmet mac and cheese and all the different spices, like the different ways you could spice up mac and cheese. Because mac and cheese is life, according to you at one point.
Still is, yep.
Yeah. And I remember we started that, and then we had to go buy, like, we're going to do homemade mac and cheese. And then we were like talking about which cheeses we wanted and which spices would go well. This is like pre-Google. So like we don't know. So we're testing spices. And so I wouldn't necessarily call that like overly rebellious, but you're breaking convention. You're trying to come up with new things and So I would say that would be
I'm glad you know me better than me, because that is very true. That's where I will break out of all sorts of molds. The other one that reminded me of 4th of July, you were over, and all we had was bottle rockets. But I wasn't overly thrilled with that. So I went into my garage, or we went into the garage, and I just went through everything I could find that was flammable. And thought, I wonder if we could make a bigger explosion or a bigger flame. And we just started mixing things together and putting it in the bottle rocket, and just saw what happened. Just coincidentally, it just so happened that we had you light the thing because we were too chicken to light it ourselves with all the flammables in it. We were willing to sacrifice you. And you dumped over the bottle that the bottle rockets were in, because we had tied all of them together. And then you dropped the bottle. And
it was top heavy. Don't even give me that.
Then it was dark, and all we hear is you curse as you run away. The bottle dropped, and next thing you know, going straight over our heads. We're all on the ground.
For the record, no small children were harmed in said bottle rocket fiasco. There was no dogs or animals or anything that we had an issue with, and we did not end up on AFV. So
we didn't. There was no property damage, but we just there's a situation where I laughed very, very hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, that's a good segue. So let's jump into first draft reading. And when we go into first draft reading, it's just about comprehension. So what is this book? What is it about? And what are we trying to figure out? And we're trying to figure out how to be more enthusiastic. What lasts from this that we can take away? And this book is called The Power of Fun. It's How to Feel Alive Again by Catherine Price. And she did write the book, How to Break Up with Your Phone. I've not read it. She alludes to it quite a bit. It's also on her website, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself. But her job in the beginning here is to answer these really big questions. And it's at the beginning. I like when authors kind of tell you what they're hoping to solve. And on page 14, she wants to talk about some questions. Here's some of them. What is the difference between fun in the everyday sense of the word and true fun? So she capitalizes the T and the F. So true fun. She's trying to make this own separate definition. Why do some activities, often anything involving the internet or my phone, start off feeling sort of fun, with very heavy air quotes, but leave me drained? So there's things that do drain us. Okay, that was kind of the energy bus. And things that give us energy. How and why did it vary so much in intensity and duration? And what were the factors needed to be present in order for true fun to emerge for us? So for you, for me, for others. And most importantly, how can we have more of it? So I'm using fun and enthusiasm at this point basically interchangeably. I think her definition of fun here raises our enthusiasm levels by its design. So what I want to talk about is what true fun is and what it is not. So that is a good place to start for the summary and why it's good for us. So Price's assertion is that fun is really good for us and that we need more of it to be healthy and happy. Okay? So her definition of true fun is pretty early on in the book. And what she's trying to get us to see is that she even spends a great deal of time defining fun because it was a newer topic to study. She talks about it as the intersection of playfulness, connection, and flow. So kind of this overlapping Venn diagram of sorts. And Johann Huizinga, who is kind of the more prominent researchers on play and wrote, he's a Dutch historian as well. He said fun is absolutely primary category of life, familiar to everybody at the glance right down to the animal level. We all know what fun feels like, in other words, and we seem to have a biological drive to seek it out. I believe it would be the seeking system if we're talking about effective neuroscience. So, but the dictionary just defines it as enjoyment, amusement, or lighthearted pleasure. Well, she contrasts that. Let me give you one more because I like Price's definition. Okay? Some enthusiasm. She did a survey of people and just said, hey, can you define fun? And here are some examples from the book. Fun is unbridled enthusiasm. It's pure joy, happiness, and love. And I'll do the shorter one. It's when I asked my then 5-year-old daughter what color fun would be, and she thought for a second, then said sunshine. Kids are just the best. So her true fun, like I said, is the confluence. I like that word. There's another word I'm going to say later that's super fun. Of playfulness, connection, and flow. Whenever these three states occur at the same time, we experience true fun. And I'm not going to go too deep into the definitions of each of these topics. Playfulness, connection, and love. But playfulness, more or less play. Connection with other people, and flow being the immersion or engagement that we get from people. What I want to say as we continue onward, and we'll get into the details, is without getting into her stuff on phones and technology and whatnot, true fun is an active experience. You're setting the bottle rockets off. You're making random mac and cheese. You're playing video games. Like it's an active state, not a passive state. And that's important because some of the things we think are fun are actually very draining to us. And that's no bueno, no good. So she goes on and talks about signs of true fun. Now, Jake, I'm going to ask you which one of these stand out to you. So here are some signs that you're having true fun. And I think you mentioned some. This is why we started off with your fun history. So here's the list. Number 1, laughter. A sense of release, freedom, letting go. Those are all together. Feeling like you're having a special shared experience. Losing track of time. It's flow. Feeling free from self-judgment and self-consciousness. Feeling like you're feeling like you're temporarily stepped out of normal life. It's like this is a different thing. Being fully absorbed and present, similar to losing track of time. Not caring too much about the outcome. This is one I have to look in the mirror quite a bit, and I think a lot of our listeners do as well. A feeling of childlike excitement and joy. A positive boost in energy, there that is, and a feeling of totally yourself. So any of the signs of true fun really stick out to you?
I not without going too deep into this, right? But Adam and Eve popped up to me, specifically Eve, right? Because you start talking about cell phones. The most popular cell phone on the market is an Apple phone. And I was talking about this with some other people the other day. They couldn't just put an apple as a logo. They had to take a bite out of the apple and then put it as a logo, right? Like, you couldn't really be any more obvious between what you're alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
It just kept, as you kept talking, it's more and more connected to this story, right? And then you start talking about rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason I reacted, right? You talk about self-consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened in the Eve story. Bites the
Mm-hmm.
apple, becomes self-aware all of a sudden. All of her
Mm-hmm.
faults, boom, instantly aware.
Mm-hmm.
But it was presented as the illusion of fun, essentially. Right? There's like this idea of rebellion, and then it's like, yeah, okay, it might be kind of fun to take a bite, right?
Oh, yeah.
Takes a bite, and then all of it fades away, right? All the things that she was feeling, a lot of stuff that you were listing, it's like that's what she thought she was getting to, and then she took a bite of the apple, and I was like, yep, nope.
Yep.
And bringing up the cell phone, she connects it to the cell. That it's a modern day Apple. Like, we're promised all this stuff in the phone,
Yep.
and then we take that bite, and at the end of it, we're like, maybe if I have another bite, it will get okay. Because like you get that immediate dopamine release, right? But it just doesn't sustain you. So that's kind of what stuck out to me. Timelessness is so true. I love having so much fun. You have no idea what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the lack of your faults because you're so involved in what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
is so interesting to me. And I think as a coach, there is some real awareness to be had there.
Mm-hmm.
That when your kids are playing, when you start making them self-aware of their problems,
Mm-hmm.
what you're taking away from them truly.
Mm-hmm. I love how you weave that back there. I was a little worried for a second. You're like, okay, we're gonna go out to right field, we're coming over to left field, and we're back home. Okay, we're good. I agree, and you can see it in people, like when they really relax. Yeah, some people say goofy things sometimes, but you don't get just like beaten down with that. So I just don't think there's many contexts where people get this very often. This is a very rare. I mean, she used confluence, but like the coming together of this is, I believe it was our default state at one point, and we constantly live in this self-awareness, self-consciousness, and I'm very guilty of this. I'm very self-conscious and aware. It's annoying as can be, but that those times when you can not even be deviant or rebellious, but like where you just let it down and you can be yourself, put your hair down is kind of the common phrase, is really interesting. So let's talk more about that. So like those are the signs of true fun. So like kind of you're in it, but what are the preconditions? So those are kind of like the results. What happens before? Well, there's 5 things Catherine Price mentioned. So this is again just basic overview of fun, enthusiasm, what we see. Number 1 is being engaged and present. Yes, you got to be in the moment. You got to put your phone away. You got to do the thing together, right? You can't be fractured with your attention. Number 2, not feeling judged or self-conscious. I highly agree with that. I mean, there are people in places that you're being evaluated or you're being judged for what you're doing or how you're doing it or who you are even. Completely ruins the fun. Number 3, the precondition is going all in. I don't remember too many times with you where we haven't gone all in. Like, I mean, if we're going to do the mac and cheese, we might as well do the mac and cheese, right? I mean, this is not, you can't have, well, you got to go all in. I'm not going to use derogatory phrases for that, but go all in, all out, send the mac and cheese. Number 4 is not caring too much about the outcome. I know that's a little bit redundant, but that is the defining feature between play and more or less flow. Play it can have a goal, but the outcome, you hold on to it loosely, right? Like if we play a video game, like I'm not gonna like freak out if I lose, like whatever. I lose all the time. I'm very aware of that, but you're not too attached to it. You don't really care. Like it's just more fun playing than it is winning or losing. And the last one is being with other people. I got to make a note on that now and later. Like the size of your people will change depending where you are on introvert to ambivert to extrovert. Some people do love a huge group. Some people just need a close friend or two, and some people are a little bit of both, you know. But those are some of the preconditions that go with it. The last thing that that we want to talk about before we jump into kind of some of the bigger concepts is 90% in this study from Catherine Price, 90% of true fun experiences had laughter involved. And that is so true. It kind of speaks to the movie from earlier in the month of Patch Adams and how much healing and joy and greatness there is in just laughter of all kinds, smiles and things like that. I found that probably one of the most defining features is the laughter and having and creating and being around as much laughter as you can. If I had to pick one, now that I've kind of seen through the month, what I would look for enthusiasm is an environment of laughter. When laughter is snuffed out, I mean, you can go as dark as you want to go. It's just not a place you really want to be. And so I've been starting to look at teams and people and situations where if there is no laughter, it doesn't look like the results are there or even the fun. So just like, harmonious passion, like commitment predicts deliberate practice, I think laughter predicts how much enthusiasm you have. So pretty interesting to think about. All right, lastly, before we wrap up, just want to touch on the true fun trifecta. So playfulness, connection, and flow. Just a couple of highlights from that. I don't want to belabor the point because we have other things that we are going to cover that relate to that. But playfulness, let's start with that one. And playfulness is those times, according to Stuart Brown, when we feel most alive. Those that make up our best memories are moments of play. And what's cool about this is that according to, like, they do a lot of research on animals, but the greatest growth and development in animals, at least during that adolescent, early childhood time, is when they played the most. And we see this out of kids and we see it out of adolescents as well. When we're playing, we're experimenting, we assume like playful is like frivolous, but it's very essential to our growth and development. In terms of our enjoyment, the things that we like to do, it is intrinsic motivation at its finest. And when you remove that, we get a lot of problems. For connection, we'll cover George Valiant's The Good Life when we get to friendship, but it was this long study, longitudinal study, 80 plus years. He was one of the lead researchers for a period of time. He said that joy is connection. And according to the Grant study, the biggest factor for people who aged well was the quality of their relationships. And so it had the greater impact than even things that you would think would be even worse, such as smoking or obesity, or even fitness. So if you're going to invest in something in the long term, relationships is a good way to go. And this is where I get to say my fancy word, Jake. I might even have to have you say it all. Sultry or something like that. I just want to say that one too. Is
Sultry.
Yeah. Collective effervescence. It's when we do experience an unexpected connection with other people, the resulting energy can be rapturous. And it describes the feeling of connection, meaning, and joy that occasionally rises from collective events. So like when we're doing the thing, it's collective effervescence. There's really nothing to take away except you can sound fancy if you want to.
You can say effervescence. What more could you want?
What more could you want? Last thing is flow. We talk a lot about flow, especially in our weekly episodes, doing a flow trigger of the week. But flow is just total engagement. It's contagious. You lose track of time. It's effortless. It's no self-consciousness because it shuts down your prefrontal cortex. But Catherine Price talks a lot about junk flow, kind of like fake fun, versus real fun. But it encourages consumption without really actually engaging us. It's kind of like junk food. So junk flow doesn't really nourish our soul. So it's that passive experience. So it's like watching people play Minecraft versus actually playing Minecraft. Maybe that's just my kids. So, okay, Jake, let's jump in. We are in our second draft reading. So these are the key takeaways and topics that we have. We have about 5, and I want to go into some of the bigger exercises and concepts that she had in here about fun. So how can we get nitty gritty about fun? Well, let's start off with fun magnets. And this is dead center in the book. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to tell me what are your fun magnets. And fun magnets are very simply these 3 different buckets. You can think of them as buckets if you want, that help you experience playfulness, connection, or flow. It's just for sheer pleasure and enjoyment, or even possibly relaxation. So here are the buckets. And try and give me one if you can come up with one. So we have activities, people, and settings. So let's be a little bit more, we'll hyper specialize here because I have an exercise we're going to do after this. But this is kind of like the bigger area, and then we'll get down to the details. So give me a specific activity. You mentioned them in your fun history. Your world revolved around sport. What was a specific activity that you like to do that involved the sports? What was one specifically?
I mean, how specific you want me to get? Like playing games.
Give me an example of the game. Like
Okay.
paint a picture for people. Like I played blank, 2v2, or go forth. It could be digital or real, either way.
Full body contact, one-on-one basketball.
That like inside or outside?
Inside, but in the winter time when we were all padded and had oversized coats on and there's snowbanks and stuff, we'd do it outside too.
Amen. And when we mean full body contact, we're like, you mean like if you don't get tackled on the way to the basket,
Exactly.
you didn't do it right.
Right.
Okay. You've already mentioned people, so it's mostly friends of the same age, same interests.
Yep.
We'll leave that one be. How about settings? So was there any particular settings that you were in most often, or that produced a lot of fun? I mean, is there any, and I'm just fishing because I'm like, well, just at your house, but is there any like certain context? So in one of our mini episodes, we talked about the magic circle. And when you step into that game place, it's a special arena. But was there any setting, like kind of the where, that really always generated a lot of fun?
It was often someplace comfortable, someplace known, what the expectations were. So you weren't concerned about breaking things. Silly things, but I think it all adds into it, right? The snacks being brought down. Like you have expectations of everything, or not expectations, but an understanding of what you're going to expect.
Yeah.
Going into this environment, and there's a comfort in that, and I think that is probably the large thing that I would pull away from it. We're in a comfortable setting, not a brand new one where you weren't sure what was around you, or the actual things that were around you made a difference.
Yep. So of your magnets, so I'm just going to repeat back what I heard. So, and this could be different for everybody. It's kind of like the what, the who, and the where. But even being intentional about that, it's like, okay, well, for these 3 things to kind of come together, I need something sports related. I need to be somewhere comfortable, and I need to be around close friends I can keep up, right? So that is really the gist of that. And so Price goes further into this. That's just the general magnets. And now she gets more granular. This is going to be even more fun, Jake. I'm going to have to save this somehow. Print it off. Is finding your fun factor. So this is in the chapter about finding your fun. So I want to do this with you. So let's share my screen. So I'm going to go through each of those 3 buckets: playfulness, connection, and flow. And you just have to rate for us how likely you experience that thing. So you read through it and indicate how likely you are to get into that state of mind. And just kind of go with your gut. So I'll circle them. I'll read them and circle them. And if you want to explain more, you can. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So let's share my screen. Here we go. Look at us be super techie. Here we go. All right, Jake, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's getting there. All right, good. Now I can see it.
All right. So we are going to start with what is your playfulness style? So this is section 1. So how about silliness? Unlikely, neutral, or likely?
Highly likely.
Good thing I can circle really well. Creativity.
Careful with that thing. Highly likely.
I'm just going to underline it now.
That's a good plan.
Imagination. Fantasy world, role-playing, make-believe, fiction.
Highly likely.
Okay. Intellectual stimulation.
That honestly, that is more appealing the older I get.
Okay.
I'm gonna say neutral.
Okay. 'Cause I was gonna say, was it fit fun? Like, is it playful?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Challenges. I don't know.
Highly likely.
Okay. Games.
Highly likely.
Okay. Oh,
Am I supposed to not put highly likely?
no, you're good. There's no rules to this. It's just fun.
Okay.
I noticed that I'm getting his real reaction because I did not prep him for this, which is great. Absurdity. So things that are unexpected or out of the ordinary, offering a humorous.
Highly likely.
Ooh, this one I'm curious to answer. Not knowing what will happen next. So
All right. I'll put this as neutral.
Okay. Doing things spontaneously. Okay, now we're gonna do this. Or are you a planner? We're gonna do this.
I am more of a planner, but I do most of my things spontaneously. If something gets planned, it's because I planned it. But a lot of times I'm just like, I don't have the desire to plan this, so we'll just do it, whatever. I'm gonna go neutral.
Okay. I was gonna say I think you're spontaneous within structure. Like we're gonna play Madden, and then you just kind of make it up as you go. It's like once you have your bucket. So I would kind of put you in here, but anyways.
Okay.
Losing or voluntary relinquishing control. Do you want to lead the dance, Jake, or do you want to be led?
I would lead the dance.
So this would be is this your first unlikely?
I think so.
Okay.
I like to have fun, but I have to have fun in my
That's all right, but that's okay. I do, like I don't want to because everybody's if I was doing this, I would expose myself immediately. Like, okay, like there's no way I would ever do blank. This says I'm gonna make a joke about this off the air, but that's funny. Maintaining control of yourself and or the situation, being in charge. Basically the opposite.
I would say highly likely.
I would agree with that. All right. So we're not going to synthesize that. We're just going to play the game. So connection. So now we're talking about people. Don't overthink it. Does this situation or context feel right to you? So big groups. And I'm going to define big groups as like,
please do, 5
or more. So like we're talking like a party style. So when we talk about flow, there's like obviously solo flow, introversion. There's like interpersonal flow where it's just 2 to 3 people. Small groups, I would be in that like 3 to 5 range, but kind of when you hit that, bigger than a basketball team, football team style, like that's a big group to me. And maybe everybody's a little bit different, but that's a party at that point.
So basically the cutoff essentially is what you're saying in my head.
Yeah.
Like I typically that 3 to 5 range. So big groups, I would say not so much my style. Okay. Small groups, I would say definitely my style.
Okay. And everybody can define those differently, but I think just expanding upon like what does that group mean? Because like a big group would be like, okay, I'm gonna go play recreation, baseball, soccer. Like that's a bigger group. Like that's a team. Whereas like, when I'm having fun, the connection is a little bit more intimate. Smaller groups. Yeah. Oh, which is number 3. Intimacy, groups of any size in which people know each other well. So like she defines it as like, the people.
Definitely.
So okay. Because it say like there is some people like they can just go somewhere and they can just instantly, like they don't need to know who they are. So let's go to that one. How about strangers? Can you do strangers?
Yeah, I can do strangers, but I would put neutral.
Okay. It might produce true fun, but it would have to be under
Mhm.
other conditions. Because what that is, it's probably random. Like
Right.
you don't know if they're gonna have your interests, or I mean, you can connect with them, but it may
They
not
laugh at my
produce fun.
jokes.
Yeah. How do you say this?
Anonymity.
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 I think
Anonymity.
every YouTube channel should have, or podcaster should have a word they just cannot say. All right, this is going to be mine. Where you or nobody knows who you are. Do you like that? Kind of get lost in the crowd, or lost where nobody knows you.
I mean, I'm not gonna have fun doing it, but that is kind of my typical modus operandi when I don't know people.
Just neutral.
I guess, yeah, we'll put neutral.
Okay. Being alone, does that produce fun or connection? We're in connection.
Does it prove? Is that a serious question? How do I get connected to people when I'm alone?
Well, you're connected with yourself is the way the book presents it.
Ugh.
So like you're having fun. You're connected with your inner thoughts and ideas, and
Definitely my style.
it is.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I love to connect with my own thoughts.
There you and that talked about like active ways to do that, like with journaling or meditation or some sort of reflection where you're actively engaged with something. All right, teamwork.
Definitely my style.
Community, having a sense of belonging. It's like you're a part of like a more formal group. So like this is just working with people towards a goal. This is more like I am a part of blank.
Definitely my style.
All right, teaching, sharing knowledge.
Definitely my style.
It's kind of what we're doing. Leading, so
Definitely
coaching.
my style.
There we go. All right. Last section. What is your flow style? Now, I may make some adjustments to this, but I really like it as such. But these are different ways that are factors that help you get focused. Now, flow triggers, I'm not going to debate price. We're just going to go with what's here. So when you are focused and lose track of yourself, so you're totally engaged, is physicality present? Like you need to be moving, feeling engaged with your body.
I don't need to be, but I prefer it. So I would say highly likely.
Okay. How about nature? Is nature a big contributor to you?
Neutral.
Okay. Listening to or creating music?
Highly likely.
Doing things with the element of risk. So dangerous. What I would say with the risk here is like adrenaline. Do you like adrenaline?
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. I just did the fifth question. I should have read these 3 or 4 times. So these are risky is dangerous. This one has the adrenaline. Doing things that are thrilling give you an adrenaline rush, but aren't necessarily dangerous, like roller coasters or low stakes gambling.
Neutral.
Performing. It's like you're in front of people and there's some element of performance.
Highly likely.
I would love to see you as a stand-up one day.
Mm.
That'd be really fun. I think you'd be good at it. This is not a bad thing, so I have to clarify this one. Being the center of attention. Not selfish. I have to like this is good. Like if you're playing a game and like you're in front of people, like the performing kind of thing. Like if you're doing charades, you're the center of attention. That is okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that, especially
Yeah,
with a
I'd
smart
put
man.
highly likely.
Not that I'm trying to convince you, but for
No,
people, like yeah,
I'm such a weird personality. I have to admit.
you're a
I'm
walking contradiction.
I'm a walking contradiction.
Yep.
Yeah, I am. I'm very much an introvert and a very much a weird extrovert. It's a bizarre thing.
Welcome to the team. Number 8, acquiring knowledge or learning new skills.
Yeah, highly likely.
Okay. Having opportunities to do things you're really good at. So you're good at it and you get to do it.
Yeah, highly likely.
doing things that engage or heighten your senses. So touch, taste, smell, sight, and I would say and or feel. Like, do you need deep embodiment is the trigger?
No, I'd put highly unlikely.
Okay. Competition.
Highly likely.
Doing new things, exploring. So like, oh, do you want to go try this new blank?
Yeah, highly likely.
Okay. That's probably novelty.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning round, section 4, and then we'll wrap up. Which of the following feel fun to you? Go with your gut. Driving fast. It's okay. Have you gotten a ticket, for the record?
You got a fast car? No, I've gotten 2 warnings, but no tickets.
I've gotten 2. So okay, that was like 15 years ago now.
Fairness, I live in Phoenix, so if you want to get a ticket here, a speeding ticket here in Phoenix, you got to be driving like 115.
Oh, okay.
They're guidelines. They're not rules here. Speed limits.
Oh, gotcha. So fun, like
fast. Not fun.
Okay. Bars.
As in like booze bars, or like lifting bars, or what kind of bars?
No, I'm assuming
like bars. Because if it's like
no,
singing the bars, then it's like yes. But if it's just going to the bar, no.
It's absolutely the booze bars.
Yeah, no, not fun.
Bantering.
Fun.
Concerts.
Fun.
Board games or card games or games.
I'll lean on fun there. Kind of dependent on the board game, but overall fun.
Games that involve strategy. So like thinking logic, chess, Catan.
Yeah, I'm not a huge chess guy, but other than that, I would honestly, I'd say fun.
Yeah. Discussing politics.
Fun.
I don't know. I'm surprised that's even on here because there's so much judgment. Drinking.
Not fun.
Sports. Watching. Playing
Fun.
sports. Intellectual discussions.
Super fun.
Super fun. Playing with children, like you have kids.
Yeah, fun.
It is fun. Organizing and hosting gatherings. Being the hostess with the mostess.
I'll say fun.
Okay. I have an example of that later, so it'll be fun. Okay. Costume parties. Could you imagine doing a costume party? Mullet wig costume party.
Not fun.
All right, we'll keep going. This is the last set. All right. Physical challenges. It's like you're going on a hike, hard workout. I don't know.
Not fun.
Not fun. Crossword puzzles.
Fun.
You said fun?
Yeah.
Nah. Theme parks.
It depends on the theme park, but I'm gonna say fun.
I'm gonna put right there in the middle.
It depends. That's fair. Yep.
The beach. Or the water. I'm gonna just say water. Anything with water here.
I feel like this is an answer of my environment more than actually me answering. I would say not fun. If it's just me in a vacuum, not fun.
Okay. All right. So that would be what the fun factors are. And what we would do is I'm not going to sit here and sift through them. You would use this, and then in the book, there is actually a really good spot where you can, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Stop presenting. There we go. I'm back. Hi. Did it work?
Mm-hmm.
No, now I'm good.
You're big again.
I'm big again. And there's actually a spot where you can put this on a map. And it's really cool. It's what she calls a fun audit. And I'm obviously skipping around. Get the book. It's worth it. The exercises alone are great. But it's a quadrant. And on the y-axis, I'm not a math person, but the y-axis, that's up and down. You have activities that are high energy and low energy. And then on the x-axis, left and right, you have things that are not actually enjoyable to things that are enjoyable. And you put these things, you can be specific, like what do you like to do on there. And when you get high energy and enjoyable, those are things that have potential for true fun. The things that are high energy but aren't actually enjoyable are stressful. And then when it's low energy, not actually enjoyable, those are like boredom. And she calls them portals into existential despair. And The last one is enjoyable and low energy. So it's like, it's not hard. It's just fun, enjoyable. Those are things like hobbies, interests, and pleasant pastimes. So there's these 4 ways that you could start bucketing things. And the goal of this is really to be more self-aware and identify what are the environments and the people and the activities, things that bring me this enthusiasm, and recreating more of it and letting go of the other ones. So that was really the point. So thank you for playing along. I learned a little bit. I could have done pretty well at that. Like, it would have been really fun is those like relationship games where like they reveal. That would have been fun too, but that works just fine. So
yeah, well, maybe one episode we can play matchmakers together.
Yeah, it'd be fun actually. I would do that. It's a little risky because I wouldn't want to be wrong, but I'd be entertained by it. I could get pretty close.
Yeah, I think we could.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move forward. So we've done the fun factors. If you want to, you could pick a fun times journal. You start listing the things that you do that are fun, or ranking them 1 to 10 on if they're fun. But I want to move to fun blockers. So Jake, the question is, what is the biggest fun sucker in sports? Okay. That's what I want to talk about. And there are some here that I would like to mention to you.
The referee.
Don't do that.
Okay, don't do that.
Don't do that.
That was a joke, people. That's not true. We wouldn't be able to have any fun without the referees. The referees.
You now have to volunteer at an umpire 3 soccer games before you are allowed back on this channel.
I love my referees.
So yeah, I do too, and they're good people. So here are some of them. I'm actually going to leave it open ended. No. Do you want the answers from the book, or do you want to pick your own? Like, what do you think is a fun sucker? Or do you want some of the suggestions?
No, give my juices flowing. Go ahead here. I may riff, but go ahead.
Choose your own adventure. Okay. So number 1, it's not surprising for an author that wrote about how to break up with your phone, is distraction. So probably the greatest offender, since it gets in the way of all 3 things of true fun. So when you're doing multiple things at once, or like you're looking at your phone or whatever. Number 2 is judgment, where people, or you self-judgment or other people judgment, where they make you self-conscious, right? You feel like you're being evaluated, and it puts us out of the present experience. I would say even self-consciousness is included in that. Number 4 is things just that aren't straight up fun. Like, we're just do the things that aren't fun. Like, and we just continually do them. So busyness, we just make ourselves busy for no reason. Number 5 is material possessions. They can facilitate fun, but they can also be like a curse as well. Like, the thing doesn't actually produce the fun. Like, you could have a boat, but unless you go fishing or take somebody tubing, or, like something, it's possessions can, like, I don't know, be golden handcuffs. Self-medication is mentioned as another one, numbing ourselves from our current reality. So we say that getting drunk or high or movies or TV or mindlessly doom scrolling is fun, but it's not really that fun. So those are some of the bigger ones that were mentioned as fun blockers. Do you have any that really stand out to you as like a blocker of fun? And because we're going to get down to the types of rebellion, so I'll leave those for now. But anything that you see really gets in the way of, like, okay, as an athlete, as a coach, or even parents, like, what gets in the way of fun?
Humans. The humans get in the way of the fun, ultimately.
Be more specific.
I know that's what we're doing here. I just don't want it to disconnect with the audience. Like, oh, it's judgment. No. It is a human who judges within the game, within the fun that happens. Like, there has to be a human that does that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it would be judgment. Would probably be the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not just judging you, but like judging the rules of the game all of the time. Like, that's not fair. That doesn't work. That's stupid. We should do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So judgment sticks out to me. Distraction. I think distraction can also add an element of fun sometimes. I think it can create other trails and adventures within a game that can be positive and add to the fun. So I would be slow on the distraction one, but I do get her point.
I agree. The judgment is interesting. I think when we covered the yes and flow trigger, is probably, if like you made me pick, I agree that some other of the group flow triggers might be more important, but the ability to be additive. I mean, I think, some people, I've seen you do this too, where you can overcome other, like when we talk about the energy bus, like your enthusiasm, your joy has to overcome other people's negativity. Your positivity has to overcome their negativity. I've seen you do that, but that gets exhausting, right? Like you just can't lift that weight 15 times. It's like, dude, I don't want to play with you anymore. Everything you say, like, you're not adding to the conversation. You're not pushing. It's like, no, we're not gonna do that. Well, what the heck do you want to do? For me, it's like 3. After that happens 3 times, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The judgment, like the times I feel judged or I am aware of myself, I get rigid. I play worse. I'm clearly not enjoying myself. So if I had to pick, I get what she's saying on distraction, but I think judgment would be the biggest one. So like putting kids into a situation where, if I gotta wonder about whether you're being judged by other people or you judge yourself. I wonder a little bit about self-judgment because you kind of want to know where you rank sometimes, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, as I kind of thought about it, there's probably the biggest enemy of fun and development at this point in time too is a perception of judgment. Kids that will freeze because they are perceiving that they are going to be judged by their peer group, by a coach, whatever. I think mostly it's by the peer group that stops them dead in their tracks. So the perception of judgment, I think, is a huge fun sucker for kids, especially, but also adults. Like we go into areas that may be new or even possibly comfortable, but if we haven't reached that level yet, we have this perception that people are judging us. And I think the truth is that this is going to sound callous and cold, but people really don't care. We often think people care about us more than they actually do. And I don't mean that in the sense of close friends, because that barrier has fallen, but in general public settings, in office settings, in team settings, I think we have a perception that people care about our actions more than they do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to notice that more often because I think we're all searching for, whether it's at work or at our team or at home, the ability to play, the ability and we're going to talk about permission slip, but otherwise you have this like guard up, it's like We Wear the Mask, which is a famous poem. Like you always have this mask up and very few people get to see beyond that, a layer or two deeper. And it's I think that's such a freeing thing. So I agree on the judgment.
And I think this goes into rebellion. I don't want to jump to the gun here, but conflict, right? A big part of the team, the professional team that I lead, is trying to get them comfortable with conflict, because that is a big preconceived notion that if I engage in conflict, it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're here for a common goal. And if we want to get into play, if we want to get into a state of flow, if we want to solve problems, there has to be conflict.
Yeah.
Take a game, any game. There is conflict. There has to be conflict. Tag. There's a conflict. There's a tagger and someone who doesn't want to be tagged. You go a conversation, right? Typically, those conversations are most fruitful and productive when there is an element of conflict because you disagree on something or because you have different views of something. That's what makes it engaging and fun. So this fear of conflict, I think, is a real issue to this.
I think one of the greatest things I've ever been a part of, like in that context, is how many friends I have that have very strong opinions that are totally absurd, at least in my realm. Like like the fandom of one of my cousins for the New York Giants is so absurd. Like why do you like them? Like, just, we'd pick our favorite players and teams, and we'd have really hot takes. Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl this year? And that's kind of the point when we covered the weekly primer of like smack talk. We want to be comfortable disagreeing in the frivolous so we can disagree with the non-frivolous as well. And it just takes practice. Like, you develop familiarity and comfort. And we'll talk about that with friendship and loyalty as well. But you have to. And when you have the ability to trust someone, it's like they're not going to hold it against you or, some other thing. Like, you don't take it. Like, when it's play, it's not personal. It's just a game. So, well said. All right. Well, let's move to the kind of this next section of the S.P.A.R.K. So, Catherine Price talks about this acronym, like how do we develop more fun in our lives? And she has this acronym S.P.A.R.K. It stands for make space, pursue passions, attract fun, rebel, and keep at it. So I have a couple of things I want to ask you, and then we'll go one by one, but and we'll go through one by one, and then I have a couple of really easy tools people can take away from this. So the first one for make space is literally make space. Like, once you've done these inventories, the audit, finding your fun factors, looking at your magnets, things like that. When you start to identify what this is, you got to let other things go. Like, if it's not in that true fun arena, you got to have let go of the fear of missing out and being the ability to say no. I think we're far too easily satisfied, as kind of C.S. Lewis said. We can just mire ourselves in junk flow or fake fun. And that's one problem. One of the other things is, and I fall guilty of this one, Jake. So the no, I have no issue with. For whatever reason, I'm getting better at saying no as I get older. Is the permission slip, like, especially for adults or even kids. Like, you get really serious into the thing you do. And we're going to talk about our recommendation for the balance between enthusiasm and industriousness at the end. But this permission slip. So I'm going to read it to you because it's actually really interesting. It says, I give myself permission to think about and prioritize my own fun without feeling selfish or irresponsible. I think depending on a parent dynamic or even kids, like, we think like, oh, if we're taking time to do this and there's no outcome, I'm not making money or there's no tangible result, like, oh, and then I'm being reckless with my time, like, rah, rah, rah. And I commit to doing so in a way that feels energizing and enjoyable. P.S. I also agree to tell my inner critic to be quiet and to avoid anything that feels like yet another to-do. That is really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So if you were an athlete, when's the last time you just grabbed the ball and played? Or you just went to play a home run derby and, like, you didn't care who won? Like, let's just go play. Like, what part of your practice? Like, hey, we're just going to play. Like, I'm not going to design a flow activity or this or that. It's like, just go play. Roll the ball out. Figure it out. When's the last time that happened? That one was interesting. Which one do you fall prey to? Are you worse at the no or the permission slip?
I'm worse at the no. Oh, big time. Yep, I have no problem giving myself a permission slip. And then my wife is the exact opposite. My wife has no problem saying no, but is very struggles with giving herself a permission slip to basically self-care, being a mother of small children.
Yep.
So we're opposite in that way, but I struggle to say no. And I am realizing that I'm in the phase of life where I'm phasing from being able to say yes to everything to now having to know what to say no to. And I've heard a businessman, I think I've shared it before, but right, when you start out in the world, especially he's speaking in the context of the business world, but I think you could extrapolate this out. Say yes to everything. Say it. Go to whatever meeting. Meet whoever for coffee. Meet 17 people for coffee. Always say yes. Try to do things that you haven't done before.
That was the movie we had. It was Yes Man. It's very good. I was told to watch that a long time ago, but have you seen that one yet?
Yes, I have. With Jim Carrey.
Yeah. It was a really good, it was perfect for the opposite of what you're describing for judgment. And people always say, no. Like, well, screw you. Say yes to something. The absurdity of that movie. And it was a perfectly selected, actor for that. So anyways, sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're
I
good.
wanted to add to that. Yeah. So you see the yes and like the things he got into is a perfect example of that.
Yep. And then you start to realize what is fun, what brings you something, what it brings you, right? Taking that inventory of, okay, what am I doing? What is it bringing me? And then you can start to say, yep, okay, now I'm ready to say no to this. I'm going to say yes to this type of stuff.
Yep.
And now you've just narrowed your focus, and you're now able to plan your day, plan your time, and prioritize your time in a very healthy way.
Well, I don't want to get too, I'm trying to stick to the enthusiasm. Like that's kind of our guiding focus for a lot of this. So like there's all sorts of stuff in these books that we're covering that we don't cover because we just can't. Like you can't cover a whole book in an hour or two. You can try. I've tried. It doesn't work. But one of the things she gets existential on is life's short. Like, yes, say yes to things, especially early. But once you kind of know and you can curate, like good example, like so dessert. And I've heard Tom Brady say this. It's like he's not against having pizza, but if he does have pizza, he's going to have good pizza, right? So if you're going to have fun, don't just make it fake fun or, even partially fun. Like know it and then like really commit yourself to, I know this thing is going to be predictably fun.
Yeah.
I think we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or, we want to people please a little bit or whatever it is. Like, yeah, I'll do that. And then you kind of bend to their thing. And there is an element of quality time where it's not always about you, right? But if you can kind of have those mutual crossovers with other people, saying no to things that are not going to be fun and go to the ones that do. So she goes existential at one point. It's like, you don't have much time for this. Like pick wisely. So, really sharp left turn, but it had to be. She kind of slipped in some of these phone things. So if you have a deaf device, okay, smartphone, I found this really interesting, and maybe you like it too. So, she called it the exercise www, like the beginning of a website, for instance. And she said it's a two-step process. So what you do is you take a rubber band or hair tie. Now, if you have women in your household, I have a couple of girls, there's hair ties everywhere. So you can find 3 hair ties and no issue. Okay. What you do is you actually tie it around your phone. All right. And people, your brain will wonder, why is there a rubber band or a hair tie around my phone? Well, the second step is like you ask yourself a series of questions to better understand why you reach for your phone. So you're trying to cut this thing off and build a little friction in the James Clear sense. You should check out that episode. That was a good episode. James Clear. Is the 3 questions. So www, what for? So I'm grabbing my phone. What am I using it for? Take that rubber band off. Number 2, why now? Like, is this the time I set up that I'm going to doom scroll? Okay, well, the 20 minutes of Instagram ain't so bad. And what else? So is there anything else fun I could be doing that would produce those other 3 things? So repeat, www, hair tie, rubber band. What for? What am I using this for? Why now? And is there anything else? What else could I be doing? So I think that was really easy, low tech strategy to kind of build some friction to stay away from your phone and make space for more fun. Because I think we have more time than we think, and I don't want to go into the statistics of how long everybody's on their phones, but it's mentioned in the book. It's a lot is the point.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next section, pursue passions. We're going to speed up. I have a couple of these here. Okay. So we talked about your fun history. We went through your exercise. We could dig into that. But there are some prompts that she gives here that can be helpful. So I want to just kind of update it for today. So like present day, Jake. All right. What is something, I'm going to do 3, maybe 4, very quick, just kind of your gut answer. What is something you're interested in learning to? I'm interested in learning to what?
How to influence and impact culture within an organization.
Ooh, we're gonna have to cover the culture code, buddy. Daniel Coyle's other book. That's good to know. See, I'm getting book ideas from just other podcasts. It's great. Let's do this one. it might sound silly, but I'd love to.
Oh,
I knew it. That'd be a good one.
oh.
And or I know I'm supposed to not do this, so all the professional podcasters can go stuff it for a second. It's scaffold here. Things that I always say I want to do or learn, but supposedly don't have time for. So it could be silly or you don't have time for it, but I would.
Yeah, this is gonna go fall in the silly category. How to control. How do I even put this? How to control the vibrations of myself. And the piggyback off that, learning how to change the software of learning how to change the software that my brain uses to operate in the world.
That's interesting.
To better match how I want to be seen and perceived in the world.
Ooh. We're gonna have to read the Alter Ego Effect, buddy. Like I'm getting book racks here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because that book, Todd Ehrman, is more or less about. It's similar to Secret Identity when we cover Super Better on the last book of this month. But it's how do I want to present myself in the world, and what traits do I want to accentuate, and how does that produce? And I hear what you're the other words, and I could repeat them back, but how does that produce the most positive energy possible as well?
Sure.
Phrase it.
That's absolutely another way to put it.
Okay. Is there anything else you're curious about, interested in learning, or would like to try that we didn't cover? That would just be fun. You're like, oh, that'd be fun too.
I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. Cooking. I'd love to get better at cooking. Specifically grilling. I'd love to like deep dive into that, smoking things, whole 9 yards.
That's interesting. Are you barbecue? You thinking barbecue? BBQ.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Tractor Supply Store has Blackstones for $350 that we're thinking about getting. And if we get that, like the limitless in terms of what you can cook on the thing and do with it. But yeah, I'd love to get into smoking. Kind of mesh flavors, all sorts of fun stuff. Like I eat all that stuff.
I could see, and this is gonna have to be our first thing. Like, I need you to get ahead of the game on me. I need you to get like a good 20 hours. Remember, we covered that in an episode with Josh Kaufman. First 20 hours. Give me 20 hours of this, and then I would love to play test all the spices. It's like mac and cheese 2.0. Like, this is great.
If I could make smoked mac and cheese, oh my word. And I could put some smoked brisket in it oh my goodness.
Okay. I don't see that on John Wooden's Enthusiasm. Where is that stinking?
Oh, but I'm enthused. Let me tell you, my friend. I'm enthused about this idea now.
Oh, like, because if you work hard and then you enjoy some smoked, oh man, this is coming full circle. We are making a lot of progress today. I can be a therapist. I haven't answered too many of these today, and that was on purpose. Because it's cutting down our time quite a bit when I don't double down on some of these. I have one. I want to throw this off you. So if somebody goes and steals this from me, good for you, because this would be sweet. I don't necessarily have time for all these ideas. Okay, so context. Dallas Keuchel, pitcher, right? Signs with the Minnesota Twins. Now, he was with the Astros for a while, got traded around a little bit. He's a soft tossing. He's like Kyle Hendricks. He's a lefty, okay? He now is on the Twins. He was on a AAA. He just got called up. Well, he wasn't sure if he wanted to come back to the game. So what does one do when one wants to redo their arsenal? Well, they go to Driveline, right? You're a Driveline guy. And if you don't know who that is, that's Kyle Boddy out in Seattle. They've done some amazing work. Kyle's a cool dude. I highly respect seeing because I've seen him when he first started on the scene to now, and it's unreal what he's been up to. Nonetheless, he didn't just go to any Driveline, Jake. He went to a Driveline in Arizona. So I looked up said facility, and he was there. I didn't realize Driveline had other facilities besides the Seattle area. Now, why do I say that? Well, one thing I'm really curious about, would like to try, is kind of in your frequency world. is when I teach pitching mechanics, I do it with music, right? Synchronization. You match your mechanics to the beat. Very simple, easy to learn. Okay. What I really want to try, I want to go to Driveline and I want to either test out not only like the synchronous effects of music on pitching mechanics, like velocity, accuracy, all that deal. I want to try the wearables, Jake. So there's a device out there called the Soundbrenner, and it links up to your phone and it vibrates the beat for you. They like drummers use this. It's just it looks like a watch. I would love to put that on a pitcher, like their non-throwing hand, and just see what happens. Like the ability to feel the music would be awesome. And then they also, I don't have money for this either, the haptic suits. They look like little weighted vests. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine having the vest and it just, I would like, it would be, I'm convinced it would enhance the learning. Mm-hmm. Because my hypothesis is obviously you'll throw harder and more accurate and repeat your mechanics, but because that's what the research has said. But it hasn't been applied to pitching. And I do know that pitchers and performers aren't always consistent, but music is. It's objective. And so I would love to see, this is kind of one of the future things I'd love to see. I'd love to see every MLB team have a DJ on staff for their pitching staff. It'd be awesome. Like, it just sounds ridiculous. But like the ability to intervene, like, you know, they have a bad start or two and they need to fix their mechanics. It's like instant oatmeal, instant. Okay. Anyways, I'm off track. We have, what do we have? We have smoked and whatever mac and cheese, and we have haptic suit pitchers. This is great. Where are we?
We got our bases covered.
We got our bases covered. All right, next section, attract fun. So we covered the S.P.A.R.K, we make space, pursue passions, attract fun. We'll wrap up here. I'll keep moving. Is this a bit like, I think some people just naturally attract fun. I would include you in that conversation, especially when you hit some of those fun factors you identified. But I just want to read these, like the lists of like people who attract fun. I think this would go really well at the energy bus. But I want to read some of them. So fun magnet ingredients list. So here's some things that if you're going to attract fun, you need to do. Number one, that person's spontaneous a little bit, right? It could be within a controlled scenario, comfortable scenario, but they're spontaneous. You're going to do fun stuff. You're at ease with themselves and comfortable in their own skin. They're not afraid to be silly, especially like self-effacingly silly. They're not afraid to try new things and be a beginner. They're not afraid to be vulnerable. They're appreciative of the small things. They find joy in being alive. And people who are around those people say this about them: I never feel judged by them. There's your comment. I'm glad you said that earlier. They make everyone feel included. They're considerate of others' feelings. They get excited with you. It's like, Jake, I will eat the mac and cheese with you. Yes, this sounds awesome.
Of course you will, because it'll be the best mac and cheese of your life.
Agreed. They create wonderful shared memories. See, we're just on point. With them, there's always something to do, and they make these events as fun as possible. They're generous. They give everyone the benefit of the doubt and are really open to others, and they always have time and energy to make people feel special. So those are elements of attracting fun. And I want to probably do our last mini lesson on this, adopting a fun mindset. Like it's just an attitude. And I covered that with Charlie Hohn's quote about play being a state of mind. And whether your world's a prison or a playground is totally up to you. I agree with that with fun too. Like if you go into it like thinking we're going to have fun, the habit of intentionally approaching and reacting to your life, your game, your sport in a way that's just attractive to fun. Mm-hmm. I think that's something we could really work on. I know I'm kind of flying over that, but that's a huge deal. The fun mindset for enthusiasm. And I want to give an example of that. In a moment, but some of the ways to be more attractive to fun or attract fun are be easy to laugh, say yes and, see there's that flow trigger, seek absurdity, sprinkle in playfulness, connection, and flow, and then finally strengthen your play muscle. So get better at it. There are other things like sending out play signals, like what dogs do. So dogs like bow, like they stick their butt in the air and they wag. Humans like stick out their tongue, wink, or smile. sarcastic lines, the irony. I think humans are really good at irony, like nice weather we're having, and as you're all melting in Death Valley where you are. And she goes on to mention other ones, but I think that's fun. But the one I want to talk to you about was this idea of pie madness, and I want to do this with mac and cheese. So in the book, it was COVID, and this group came together, and every year during March Madness, they would each make a pie, and they would do like a bracket and to see who was the winner. And they like the absurdity of the debate around like coconut cream pie versus banana cream pie was just unreal. And so they did this, and they even did it virtually. But every year they would pit, pumpkin pie versus apple pie, and like people would make it. It was super cool. So I propose publicly that there needs to be a mac and cheese madness. Like we need like cheddar versus white cheddar. And we need to have samples, like maybe an 8. Like 8's a lot of mac and cheese, different types of mac and cheese. But I want to know who the champion is. Like we're gonna do this. You got to do it right. So if we're gonna have a true champion of the cheese, I think this needs to happen. Like the mac and cheese. So I found that the absurdity of pie madness to be a really good example of attracting fun. You create a game, a context. Everybody kind of plays along. It's absurd. You don't really care who's going to win. Well, you do, but you don't. And whatnot. So I want to ask you both questions. So are you a pie guy? Yes or no? And even if you weren't, what kind of pie would you submit to the bracket? And then give me an example of the first nuanced smoked mac and cheese you would make. Like I want to know the cheese, the type of noodle, and then maybe any spice you put on. So give me all that. I want the pie and the mac and cheese.
Okay, huge pie guy. Love pie.
Okay.
Love pie. If I had to submit a pie, I'd probably go the chocolate pie route. Some sort of chocolate cream. You could throw in some variations right there. You could probably slip in a little fruit in there or peanut butter. So you got some leeway to do some things with that, but I'd probably go that route.
Okay.
First variation of mac and cheese that I would do, I'd get smoked brisket in there.
You had me at hello.
Two types of cheddar. I'm thinking Gouda.
Ooh, that's a good word too.
You got to get a little garlic in there, a little bit of lemon juice, Parmesan cheese, a little bit on the top, and then a good mac and cheese is creamy and stringy. Okay, so you need a good sauce that's nice and creamy, but then when you pull it apart, it's got to have that string aspect to it. A lot of people are like, oh, we got a creamy sauce. That's great. But the sex appeal of a mac and cheese is when you pull it apart and the string, right? This isn't like a cheese pull is a thing for a reason. You need that sexiness to it, okay? But then there's the people who just have the stringiness and there's no real creamy base. And you're like, this is like, you're sexy, but you have the personality of a brick. I'm sorry, not doing it for me. So you need to have both. Noodles, that's a great question. I'm not beholden to any certain type of noodle per se when it comes to mac and cheese or think one is necessarily better than the other. I think just for the first iteration, you have to go elbow because that's classic and it's a thing of beauty. But you can throw in like the cavatappi noodles are really solid. Shells are always a game changer.
Your wife hasn't locked in yet, but if you start a mac and cheese food truck, I apologize. It is my fault. And that said, if this type of mac and cheese food truck would be ravingly popular.
Oh, absolutely.
I think mac and cheese, I know I covered it at one point. We did we copied the NBA's secret food addiction, which is peanut butter and jelly. So I was at a school and we brought up peanut butter and jelly buffet, like just a couple different jellies and jams, a couple different types of breads, a couple different types of peanut butter. It was a hit. Mm-hmm. I think mac and cheese is right up there at PB&J. There's not many things that are like culturally like across the board. I think you'd be hard pressed breakfast, lunch, and dinner to defeat PB&J, mac and cheese, and pizza. Like this is a good debate topic. Like what would be the culturally nostalgic foods, like across the board. You really cannot argue with that.
Right.
I was getting over the sex appeal thing. Like I was thinking that like your strings are busty. Like it'd be like a strip club sounding food truck name. Like this is going absurd and probably playfully deviant and rebellious, but I was like, the name of that food truck, if you were really like it could be called G strings. Like, I mean, like the Gouda strings, but the G strings, it can be great. Like it's very punny. Like I just came up with
Oh my goodness.
G strings.
I'd feel a little weird selling a kid's food to probably kids at some point in time out of a truck name with G strings on it. I don't know that I could do that.
Unforgettable. You pull up with the ice cream sounding truck, noise, and you're just passing out G strings. Okay, I'm done with that. Anyways, we've exhausted our point there. So let's move to rebellion. All right. So I want you to pick your rebellion.
Yeah, let's move to rebellion. That's a good one.
Good. I notice that we don't plan all these transitions; they just seem to happen. I'm not putting this in the show notes. I hope when people watch this, they just, what the heck? All right. So pick your rebellion. So Catherine Price talks about these different types of rebellion. I'm not going to define each one, but I want you to pick one or two that you think are the biggest culprits. So like we're in the sports world. Which ones are the ones we should, I'll leave it open-ended, like in terms of like, which ones are hard to overcome, or should we intentionally rebel against more? Okay. There's no wrong answer here because this is why we do this. So here are your different types of rebellion. Number one is convention. Number two is traditions. Number three is beliefs. 4 is formality. 5 is perfectionism. This one is what you said kind of with humans, but adulthood. So I would say adults. Expectations is another. And last one is responsibility and obligation. So convention, traditions, beliefs, formality, perfectionism, adulthood, expectations, and responsibility and obligations. Is there anything of those that you think we should rebel against more?
Convention, I think, is always something that needs to be rebelled against. I think that's how development and growth and all that sort of fun stuff happens. So I think there's always room to rebel against convention. I think a lot of great things, great teams have happened because of a rebellion against convention. Look at the Warriors, started shooting 3-pointers more than any other team, right? Yep. You're rebelling against the conventional thought of, why wouldn't I take a 2? It's closer. It's a high percentage I'm going to make it. So something like that, I think, is always good to look at and see how we can rebel against it. Tradition is a very interesting one to me. And I think of those that finds the news the most, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of that, I think of guys watching home run balls now instead of just getting around the bases, right? And the schism that causes. And I think the NFL is too far gone now, but people like Steph Curry making a 3 and shimmying, right? This tradition of just go back and play defense. So I think that one is very interesting. I'm okay with rebelling against it. I think people need to rebel against it to cause people to look at it. But also knowing that it's not something that we need to take and run with every time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like you stopping and watching a home run ball and flipping your bat 75 feet into the air, and is that really bringing the attention that we want to the game? Is it really adding fun to the game? Is that, I think those are conversations all worth having, and I'm not gonna. There are certain and I think this is where it's important to rebel against and bring it to the conversation. There are a certain group of people that if you break tradition, want you banned from whatever thing that you're doing. And I think that reaction is preposterous. There are also people who think that traditions are stupid, old, antiquated, and need to be completely rebelled against and completely thrown against the wall. And that's also stupid. And so I think it brings to the forefront a really good conversation of What is acceptable? Why do we think it's acceptable?
Can you go ahead and define that? I gotta take a quick pause, but I want you to go define that. So can you riff on what is acceptable? How would you balance those two? I'm gonna leave you with it. I'll be right back.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. What is acceptable? Well, let's take the bad flip. I think there's a certain situation. There's situations that type of exuberance absolutely should be coming out of you and is a perfectly normal thing. But then there are situations like you hit a home run at the top of the first in game 3 of a 162 game season and no one's watching. It's like, what are we trying to do here? What are we trying to accomplish? Can you have exuberance? Sure. But I think there's kind of knowing a moment and knowing what's going on around you that I think is what bothers people. That I think honest people can also understand when the moment is right. Like, okay, I get that. I get that kind of emotional release or physical release in that case to celebrate the event that you've just done. And I think a lot of the people that do have an issue with people going against tradition are people that can't do what's happening. They don't have the skill. So it's like you haven't put in the work to accomplish what that person has just accomplished. So who are you to really say that they can't flip their bat? Right?
Sure.
Overall, I just think it's a good thing that keeps getting brought up to really look at, well, how are we doing things? The biggest one right now that I can think of is in golf. There's just a new, younger audience that's coming to the game of golf, and you have everyone's happy that golf is becoming more popular within the golf community, but there is like this certain group of people that like, I can't believe you didn't wear a collared shirt and pants to a golf course.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're gonna kill the game. It's like, okay, that's an overreaction.
I would love to hear like the banana ball version of golf. Right. And I think they have like those courses that are, like trick courses, like they have all these different ones out there. I think there's room in this world for both, right? I mean, I think traditions are cool. I think you should build traditions because then you get to build community. At the same time, like, breaking that is what makes it fun. So like having both the tradition, like here's what we do, and not traditions that denigrate anybody. I'm not talking hazing or anything like that. I'm talking like good traditions, right? Like every year we have a bonfire before our first game, like kind of thing, or whatever. Midnight Madness. I don't know, whatever your deal is in your town. But also just knowing your team and like what they like, what they don't like, and it's like, hey, we're gonna go to do this thing. I think that's interesting. So I agree with you. So
yeah, you took it a little different way in terms of like creating traditions for your group. For some reason, when I thought of tradition, I just thought of like the heritage of something, right? Like, and I guess it kind of ties in with convention, right? But just doing it how it's always been done.
Yeah.
I think there's convention. For me, convention's more, my mind went to more of like a true strategy or specific within the game, how we do something. And then I think tradition is kind of like how we do things around that event.
Yep.
So
I think one of the things is like, and I do lean a little bit more toward tradition, and I'm a walking contradiction too. So, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but you have to first know the rules in order to break the rules, right? You got to have some fundamentals, and you got to know where the games come from. Like if you understand, you have a high degree of respect of the game and the people who came before you, you're not being, disrespectful to that. Like, I think everybody knows when somebody's really having fun and you can it comes out of them very naturally. And then when they're just, stoking their own ego.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to tell. Like you're so happy to celebrate with your team. I love it when quarterbacks run and they go jump up on a lineman who scores a touchdown, like for instance, or the running back junks and all the linemen. Like I think when we see true celebrations and they break convention, it brings the team together, and that's the concept of Fiero. But I agree with that. So let's bring this thing home. So last thing, I'm just going to give the advice, and if you have anything else you'd like to add on this, is the idea of keep at it. So it takes practice, right? I mean, if you're not good at saying no, or you're not giving yourself permission in the train's case, you need to start planning this, right? You got to plan for your fun. So some advice, some things that came up are not even in the book, but just outside of it, from flow training, everybody thinks like it's this massive thing. Like I have to have all fun. We're kind of all or nothing people, aren't we? Is usually weekly. It's not that much. It's about 2 to 6 hours a week is what we're talking about for a fun calendar. That's really not a lot. It's like a morning or an afternoon. That's kind of the minimum threshold for just sheer play. So if you're looking at your week, and I know parents and especially coaches and parents, athletes, you're busy, especially as school is about to start here. As of this recording, we're in August, we're just in that last week of July or first week of August. You get busy, but find that little time in there. The Nar Country recipe from Stephen Kotler, he's like, you know what? Go outside and play with friends. Like that's literally the advice for peak performance aging. Just don't stop playing outside with friends, doing something you like to do. There's so much good there between the play, the nature, and the movement as well. So there's just a lot of good. So that's one thing. Price mentions micro doses daily. This is interesting. So I know you said crosswords, which a little bit surprised me. I think you've always had more of that trivia background than I have. I'm not a pop culture fan. I just I'm very nichey. Like I niche down in something. I learn a lot about it, but I don't have the broad T-shaped pop culture spectrum. But she says just having something small that you can do every day, like starting your day with a crossword, 15 minutes. It doesn't have 5 minutes, but having those so if I was actually coaching you through True Fun or something like that, or even our audience, having something just right in the back of your pocket, and ideally without a screen. Like it's cool that there's apps and things like that. But you might have to do that www strategy. Just having something small, it's easy to do. All right. Booster shots, authors that make their own names for things. This reminded me a lot of Alistair Humphreys. He is a really interesting author and explorer, but he wrote the books Micro Adventures and Grand Adventures. And the point of this is structure. So if you're doing a microdose daily and you're doing your stuff a couple times a week, 2 to 6 hours a week, above that is like a micro adventure is like once a month, or something a little bit bigger once a month you could do. And Alistair Humphreys has a great calendar on his website. You could check it out and kind of see what he does. He's a little bit more camping, nature, outdoorsy type, but take the concept and run with it. Macro adventures is kind of more or less what she's getting at with booster shots, where it's like one thing quarterly. And having something on your calendar that you're looking forward to. So you look forward to the fall, let's say. What is kind of that one thing that's like, that'd be really fun? So you look at your fun audit, your list, I'm really excited to do blank, right? So those are kind of some of the advice to keep at it. Now to bring this home, because we're going to wrap up, Jake and I got to run. Metaphor. So what is fun like? Well, what I really get some words that stuck out to me in this metaphorical kind of thinking is fun is really freedom. You just feel free, a lifestyle, and a mindset. So fun is freedom, a lifestyle, and a mindset. You could use simile if you want, like freedom. So most valuable idea, and then we'll pass over to Jake as we finish this off with some last bit of advice. What lasts in athletics from the power and fun? So when we're studying enthusiasm, true fun is one, according to Price, and I agree with this, is one, if not the best uses of our time and should be a major focus of athletics. So if we're going to say, okay, what are we going to put our thumb on here? If you can build more playfulness, flow, and connection in your team, in your career, and in your parenting, if you can build these moments, whether it's at the practice, at the games, outside of that, the better. And this is not frivolous, and it's very much an opportunity. I just don't see a lot of this, and it could be a huge portion. So how do you do that? So we gave you kind of personal ideas above per Price, but I want to go to Stuart Brown. So Stuart Brown is our play psychologist again. And Jake, I want to throw this off of you as we wrap. And Stuart Brown said is when we stop playing, we start dying. And he likened it to oxygen. And that when you're running low on play, you're running low on fervor and vitality and energy. And so there's probably a really big correlation between the amount you play and the amount of energy and enthusiasm you have. Well, I want to kind of go outside of the realm of athletics for a second and talk about Kelly Gallagher. And this is really something I've been pondering for quite a while in terms of an approach that I would love to teach and just experiment with. Is Kelly Gallagher is a teacher out in California, and he's an English teacher, great English teacher, wrote several books, including the model we use here for our deeper reading. But he wrote a book called Readicide, and it's about the systematic death of intrinsic motivation to read. And he suggests a 50-50 approach. So in schools, this is really interesting. I know he does it to success as well as Nancy Atwell, who's another, just has kids free read all the time. But he says 50% of the reading done in a school should be academic. Yes, we got to teach you this book. We got to teach you this story. We're going to walk through it. I'm going to teach you how to break this apart and ask you questions. But he said, you know what the other half needs to be? Free reading. You need to do and read things that you enjoy. It doesn't even matter. Comics, graphic novels, magazines, fiction, nonfiction, whatever catches your curiosity, right? I would love to, this is my proposal. I think we have intrinsicide within youth sports. Like I don't know if it's systemic because I think it's a lot intentional, but the death of intrinsic motivation. And I think with this idea of fun, how much fun should we have at a sport? And you could say maybe all of it. But I do think, for our, industriousness, you got to teach skills, right? You got to get better. So I would say, I wonder if we could adopt this 50-50 approach where 50% of your practice, not warm up or cool down or water breaks, but like 50% of your practice, like you're teaching skills, you're teaching the game, you're teaching this or that. But the other half, let them play. Like they're there to play the game. And I think we get way too drill heavy without making them game-like. And you can make your games or your drills gamified. I like that. But I find this really interesting. So, Jake, as we wrap, what do you think of the 50-50 approach, and anything else you'd like to add about fun before we wrap up? This is just one thing that I've been really pondering lately that I want to throw off at people.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a key to, if you look at American sports, we are very good in basketball, right? How many basketball courts are there just in city parks that kids show up and just start playing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not a world traveler. It feels like we probably have more of those than most countries. And if we don't, we probably have more kids going there and doing it than most countries. Take a look at soccer. How many soccer fields in America do you just see? You go up to a park and you'll go see a soccer field. How many kids do you see just playing? In our country, not very many. If you go to South American countries, if you go to European countries, right? Instead of a basketball court, they put like a little soccer field there. And I mean, like a hard court, it's called futsal, but they'll go and play that, right? They are playing an unorganized game. They have an intrinsic desire to be better at that game, and that game brings them joy. I heard it in the author here, Catherine, put it into true fun and fun, right? I've heard it described as fun and joy. People are like, well, you play soccer, you must think it's fun. I said, no. Think about it. I'm running around for 90 minutes in the blazing sun, getting pushed, pulled, kicked, bit, whatever, failing more times than I'm succeeding trying to accomplish this goal, right? Potentially. And you want me to call that fun? That's not fun. Like, I wouldn't choose to do that for leisure or like, I'm not out there giggling while I'm doing it, right? But there's a joy that it brings in connecting with other people, trying to accomplish that goal, into pushing myself to achieve a difficult challenge, in the memories that are created from both succeeding and failing, both on and off the field. Like, there's so many things that go into that of what I find fun, joyful, but truly fun. that goes beyond just the activity. Because if you just pulled out the activity, looked at it in a vacuum, you'd say, yeah, that's not fun. Because you would never just show up to a rectangle and be like, all right, you're going to stay here for 2 hours, and we're going to just invite some random people, and they're going to push you over. They're going to tug on your shirt. They're going to kick you in the shins a whole bunch of times. And then they may even say some mean things to you too. You want to do that for 2 hours? Nope. But because there's this round thing with a couple rectangle things, and I have some people on my side, all of a sudden now I get some serious joy out of it. And there's this thing inside of me that's like, I want to be really good at this. One, for my own satisfaction, but two, because I've realized that the better I get, the more memories I get. And those go both ways, but I cherish them both the same. In the moment, I probably wouldn't articulate that. As an athlete who's now far past that playing point, I do cherish both the difficult times and the good times.
That's
to bring it back to this, I would consider both of those true fun.
Yeah. I want to end with that as with the yes and trigger. So Price ends the book with Walt Whitman and Uncle Walt Whitman, I'll say, and saying that we contain multitudes. I think we could be silly. I just have a few here. Silly and serious, responsible and rebellious, mature and childlike, industrious and enthusiastic, fun and improvement or achievement. I think you need both. Like, kids are walking contradictions too, right? They're developing their kids one moment, then they're adults the next. Like, use that. Like, lay into this is just fun. And I think as you get older, you can really find the fun within the hard work. And I still love the hard work portion, but that's really, really it.
I love that first one, the silly and serious. I have found that there is a spot in that spectrum that is prime development. I've often how I articulate to the kids is, I don't want you to just be here to be robots, but you can also smile, laugh, and still be focused. Like, it is possible to do it. And when you do it, it's amazing how much you'll just watch an activity that they're doing. And like, oh my goodness, they're all smiling, they're laughing, but you can tell that they are focused on the task at hand. It's just that spectrum quickly can sway either way. Right. And it's really tough to find that balance, because they'll start sliding towards the silly part, right? They're just goofing off essentially. No real focus. And you're like, no, guys, we need to focus. And that's like, if they listen, they tend to just go whoop, way to the other side.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're doing what I'm asking, but we've missed that key point where, you're not having as much fun as you could be having this, because you're thinking that I'm wanting dead serious. I think that's a lie. I think there's this general concept that we have to be super serious, to be super focused.
Yeah.
I haven't found that to be true.
And I think, as like you said, this is a whole nother tangent. We'll wrap. Is you almost have to teach fun now, teach enthusiasm, teach how to play, and knowing that this is why I like Gallagher as just a model of something to start with. Is look in the mirror, how much, kind of like Wooden, how much of his talking was information versus praise versus critique? How much of your practice is silly versus serious? And that ratio can change. And we could debate all day long, the younger you are, how much that should be. And it probably should be, a portfolio that changes as you go up, the levels. But that's an interesting place to start. So I'd love to say that. So to wrap, lots of good stuff. I encourage you to check out more of Catherine Price's stuff, obviously bookshop.org. We also really love thrift books. If you're living the frugal lifestyle and looking to get your books a little bit cheaper, your library or anywhere else books are sold, including Catherine Price's website. We'll link that below. She has some great TED Talks to check out on her website. She has some quizzes that are a little bit more quicker snapshots about, fun, your fun personality type, and what's your fun superpower. Check those out. They're fun to do. You don't have to subscribe for her newsletter, but you can if you want. She does have an interactive course, and she does have a fun toolkit. You can have some discussion questions and some, the compatibility quiz, like you saw. I got that from there. Great stuff to check out. So do support her. Good stuff. But be sure to like and subscribe as well. We're wrapping up. our month of enthusiasm. We got one more deep read with Super Better, but do check out the Energy Bus and Find Your Yellow Tux. Any other episodes. And yeah, thanks for learning along with us. Never stop learning. And we're still learning. Whether you're starting a G-string food truck or not, you know, you can be more enthusiastic, silly and serious. See, silly and serious. This is great.
The lifespan of that idea was like, whoop, and then we got something, and then dead. Just
No,
immediately.
I still think the food truck is there, but the
name,
the name,
we're gonna have to go back.
We're gonna have to
Look at
edit
the
that
drawing
one.
board.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we wrap?
I'm good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See ya. Stop recording.